You ever notice how aviation has an unbelievable sense of timing? I mean, the universe waits until the exact moment you are confident. Borderline smug. To throw a gust of wind, a maintenance squawk, or some sort of surprise directly at your forehead. It's like the industry collectively whispers, don't get too comfortable, buddy. But it also gives you moments that stop you dead in your tracks, right? A sunrise over frost-covered wings, the soft whine of an APU waking up on a cold morning, a student on their first solo trying desperately not to grin because they're pretending to be professional, the old bonanza rolling out onto the runway, still refusing to die after 60 years and 20,000 landings. Aviation humbles you. Aviation elevates you, and aviation reminds you that you're still alive. And that's why on Thanksgiving it feels right to slow down and acknowledge it. The whole crazy machine of people and airplanes, markets, weather maps, good decisions, bad decisions, and the stories that only aviation can produce. And trust me, I've got one hell of a Thanksgiving story to tell you. Welcome back to The Truth About the Market, where we cut through the noise and talk about what's really happening in aviation. Not the hype, not the headlines, but the truth. I'm Jason Zilberbrand, president of VREF. I have appraised just about everything from Cessnas to Gulfstreams for clients that range from the FAA to SpaceX, celebrities, Fortune 50 companies, as well as fleets you've definitely heard of. And most importantly, I've owned, sold, and operated my own aircraft. And equally important, this podcast is sponsor-free. No commercial paid-for opinions, no spins, just the unfiltered truth. And apparently, I'm the only man in aviation history who simultaneously cooked a turkey and negotiated with someone from Turkey for a Global Express on Thanksgiving Day. But we'll get to that. Today isn't about depreciation curves or whether the G280 is secretly the best deal in mid-size segment. By the way, it is. Today isn't about interest rates, absorption rates, or the fact that half the used aircraft listings online are, let's be honest, aspirational. Today is about gratitude. Because the aviation industry, our industry, is still standing. Bruised, tired, more expensive than ever, but we're still standing. And that is worth talking about. This episode is brought to you by VREF, the trusted name in aircraft valuations and appraisals. Whether you fly a piston single or manage a business jet fleet, VREF keeps you grounded in data that matters. Visit vref.com to know what your aircraft is really worth before you buy, sell, or finance. So let's start with the basics. Aviation people, and I include myself, are terrible at gratitude. We get so used to the chaos and the noise and the pressure that we forget how insane and beautiful this aviation world is that we live in. And we take for granted things like the smell of avgas at sunrise, or the way a PT-6 spools up like it's clearing its throat, or the sound of an ATC controller who somehow remained calm while juggling 18 airplanes, 4 emergencies, and yeah, that one Cirrus pilot who never listens. You know, the mechanic who arrives before dawn to fix the thing that broke at midnight, or the line tech who stands on a cold ramp in 20-mile-an-hour winds, acting like his marshalling wands are traffic signals for God. You know, aviation only works because of those people showing up. And not just showing up, but showing up with pride. You know, mechanics who keep 1970s aircraft alive and kicking, instructors who fly 7 lessons a day, controllers who manage a ballet of chaos, dispatchers who turn the weather charts into survival strategies, and avionic techs who speak the ancient language of Garmin firmware. These people are invisible until they aren't. We only notice them when they don't show up. You know, so today, let's say thank you, because this industry is held together by humans, not aluminum. So let's talk about the aviation market, that monster I wrestle every day. If you've been in aviation longer than 10 minutes, you know one thing. Nothing about this market makes sense. I've lived through recessions and oil shocks and credit freezes, OEM production halts, the chaos of COVID, the insanity of 2021, the madness of 2022, the softening of 23, the correction of 24, and now 25, whatever this is, it may be a normal market, and yet the market survives, it adapts. Whatever inventory vanished, refurbishment, it exploded. When rates rose, buyers became smarter. When OEMs slipped schedules, pre-owned aircraft, they got white hot. When supply chains collapsed, operators became engineers. And when every economist predicted doom, Aviation, it shrugged it off and said, nah, we're good. The industry is powered by something no spreadsheet can quantify. It's passion. And let's be honest, as long as our competition to general and business aviation is commercial airlines, we will always have a strategic advantage because we know how people want to be treated. And we have a much better business model. And after all, who doesn't agree with me that the TSA is awful? And by the way, so is the entire commercial experience. And people don't buy airplanes because they need one. People buy airplanes because it changes their life. And yes, the numbers matter because that's my entire job. But passion is what keeps this industry unbreakable. It's what keeps me working 12 to 15 hours a day. Every number in VREF tells a story. A buyer taking a chance, a seller letting go. Maybe it's a mechanic keeping a dream alive for a buyer. Maybe it's a flight department just trying to squeeze one more hour out of an engine that really needs to be overhauled. Or a lender backing an operator when it's risky, but it's the right move. Brokers, they stay up till 3 a.m. to get a deal closed. And I like to talk about, the widow that calls me to help her appraise her late husband's aircraft, because those are the people behind the numbers. And behind every aircraft, there's a human, and they're resilient and they're stubborn, but they're still humans. And so I've seen a lot of owners who have bought planes during the pandemic to escape restrictions, only to fall in love with aviation. And I've met mechanics talk about their airplanes like they're kids. And I've watched pilots tear up the first time their airplane rolled into a new hangar with their name on the door. This world is built on passion. It's not built on metal. And I'm grateful for every person who keeps it going. I'm grateful for being born into an aviation family. My grandfather, for those of you who don't know, he built his own aircraft. He flew it. Actually, he crashed it too. And that was passed on to me. I caught the bug when I was young, and I still smile every time I see a plane take off. If you're tired of guessing about aircraft values, try the new VREF Online. Real-time data, quarterly updates, and over 900 models at your fingertips. From residual value forecasts to depreciation trends, it's the platform trusted by lenders, insurance companies, and professionals worldwide. Subscribe today at vref.com and start making decisions based on facts, not feelings. Now let's talk about the turkey. Not the bird, not the country, both. When I ran the jet collection, our entire business model was flipping early delivery positions for large cabin business jets. Global Expresses, Global XRSs, Challenger 300s, basically the aircraft purchased by oil sheiks and tech bros who say bro unironically, and European royalty, and the occasional billionaire who collects private jets the way I like to collect fuzz pedals, obsessively with no remorse and definitely against the advice of every financial advisor I've ever met. So it was Thanksgiving morning. It was probably 15, maybe 18 years ago. I don't remember the exact year because everything before 2010 is just a blur of montage of BlackBerry notifications and OEM delivery schedules. But I do remember I was hosting about 20 people. It was my very first Thanksgiving. And 20 people, that's not a holiday. That's a hostage situation with side dishes, especially for someone who was my age. And I've got this turkey, a bird so massive, so oversized, it could have been certified under a Part 135 certificate as a Class B air freight item. And if I slapped an N number on it, nobody would have questioned it. But the house, it smelled amazing. And, the kitchen, it smelled like a mix between Gordon Ramsay had a love child with a Pratt & Whitney turbine. And I'm elbow deep in herbs and butter and brine and life regret. And my stress is hovering somewhere between your accountant calls and says you can't write that off, and your IA says the phrase, I found metal, but don't panic. And then, of course, the phone rings. And it's a broker. It's a real broker. It's one of those guys who is always in, I just did 3 deals before breakfast mode. And so I get a little excited. And he says, Happy Thanksgiving. He says, way too cheerful for someone ruining my day. And he says, I say Happy Thanksgiving back. And I'm holding this turkey like I'm presenting Simba to the animal kingdom. He goes, that global position you have? I got a buyer and he wants to move today. It's Thanksgiving, I say. He goes, yeah, but it's perfect because you'll never guess where my client is from. And at this point, I could really care less. But he goes, my client's from Turkey. So I'm like, all right, now I'm really convinced the aviation gods are messing with me personally. Like they got bored and said, let's see what happens if we cross the beams. This buyer isn't browsing. This man wants to transact on Thanksgiving while I'm basting a bird the size of a Cessna 152. So now your boy's out there simultaneously cooking Thanksgiving dinner, negotiating a Global Express transaction like this is some kind of deranged multitasking simulator. You know, you got to picture this. It's an absolute circus. I got the phone wedged under my chin. I got a baster in one hand. I got an aircraft purchase agreement in the other. I got escrow docs open on my laptop and the laptop dangerously close to the poultry juice. I got family arriving. The oven's beeping like a TCAS alert. I got broker after broker. Well, this broker being a broker, he's texting me nonstop, you know, and then the attorney, he's missing like he's in witness protection. At one point, I reviewed a contract amendment wearing oven mitts. I'm serious. Like a deranged Michelin chef trying to close a multi-million-dollar aircraft deal before the gravy boils over. I'm yelling things like, did you send the revision? No, not you. I'm talking to the turkey. Why is escrow closed? It's a holiday. And then I'm thinking, well, why the hell aren't you closed? It's a holiday. Anyway, hours pass. I've got family all over the place. We somehow miraculously get this deal papered. It gets signed. I take a huge breath of air. You know, everyone promises the wire is going to hit next week. That turkey, it was dry. It was overcooked. It was an emotional disappointment. Next week comes, no wire. 2 weeks go, no wire. 2 months later, the deal is dead, gone, vanished like a Cirrus pilot's radio calls. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is aviation. You can sacrifice Thanksgiving. You can lose your sanity. You can negotiate wearing oven mitts. You can multitask your soul until early retirement. You can close a deal with turkey while cooking a turkey, and this deal can still die. But the story lives forever. And every Thanksgiving, that giant turkey haunts me like, remember when you tried to sell a Global Express while probing my internal temperature? Anyway, aviation, it'll break your heart. It'll steal your holiday, then hand you some of the funniest stories you'll ever hear or tell. You know, so as we wrap up this Thanksgiving edition of The Truth About the Market, yes, aviation is messy and unpredictable. It's demanding, it's relentless, but it's so worth it. We are part of a community that wakes up every day determined to defy gravity, literally. And I'm grateful for the mechanics and the buyers and the sellers and the lenders and the students and all the pilots and all the shops and MROs and FBOs and the entire VREF family. Because without you, we wouldn't have an industry. And I think it's the best industry there is. Couple notes. The new values, they go live Monday, December 1st. And then our next episode is going to be about the market and the current state of business in general aviation, so you don't want to miss it. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought. Aviation isn't just a market, it's a mindset. It's about persistence and precision and purpose. The same qualities that make pilots better and keep companies like VREF focused on truth. So wherever you're listening from, whether it's a hangar or a cockpit or maybe a kitchen full of people, thank you. Thank you for being part of this community, for keeping it honest, and for believing in the value of flight. Happy Thanksgiving. May your turkeys be moist. May your deals close cleanly. And may your engine stay on condition just a little longer than expected. Until next time, I'm Jason Zilberbrand. This is The Truth About the Market. Fly safe and stay smart.